Speech, I feel, is not far off of how we communicate with each other. We are addicted to our phones, whether it's trying to get more likes on Instagram or watching hours of YouTube before bed. The majority of us cannot turn our heads away from our devices. The resources I utilized for this speech were taken from various academic databases, and the information drawn from them were taken from research and studies conducted by experts. I also have the ability of speaking up for a majority of you guys. Of the 13 people who responded to my audience analysis, 12 who responded a 3 or higher on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most addicted to your phones. During this speech, I will share with you the problem that is too much dependence on cell phones, and why the solution, getting parents involved to help limit the desire to use them, will make our lives better. The main problem, too much dependency. Before I persuade you to use your phones less, I want to put into perspective how dominant phones are in our society. It is clearly evident that the world is being dominated by technology, cell phones in particular. The younger generation is especially addicted. The popular thing to do is post your every thought on social media and apps such as Facebook, Instagram, or Snapchat. According to Larry Rosen in his article, The Distracted Student Mind, Enhancing Its Focus and Attention, typically college students check their phones 50 times a day, using them for close to 4.5 hours out of every 24-hour cycle. Two more statistics present cell phones relation due to time. According to John Obringer and Ken Coffey in their article, Cell Phones in American High Schools, a national survey, the number of cell phones in the United States rose from 1.2 million in 1987 to 145 million in 2002. This was 5 years before the first iPhone even came out, and there are already 145 million people using cell phones. Catherine Hertline also presents a telling statistic in her article, Digital Dwelling, Technology in Couple and Family Relationships. When discussing the roles in the household of cell phones in the household, she states, 89% of households have more than one cell phone in their house. This article was written 10 years ago. I cannot imagine what the number is now. There are many alarming effects on mental health or on cell phones. What is crazy to me that all of us are addicted to these devices and no one is doing anything about it. But what are these effects and how serious are they? Mental health acts as one of the main problems with cell phones. Teenagers now more than ever have been suffering from mental health and the other health-related concerns because of cell phones. Paraphrase from Larry Rosen, a study was done where they took teenagers in and took away their phones for only an hour. In 15-minute increments, they recorded their anxiety levels. The heavy smartphone users experienced anxiety very quickly, while the students who didn't use their smartphones didn't experience any anxiety at all. This chart from also Larry Rosen's article talks about teachers' perspective on entertainment media, and some of these statistics I want to highlight are writing was 58% mainly hurt, attention span was 71% mainly hurt, and homework was 48% mainly hurt. Teachers don't think media and cell phones help them in the classroom. They think they hurt. For lack of better words, we're getting dumber because of these things. According to David Golkin and Lothar Moeller in their article, NMR imaging of cell phone radiation absorption in brain tissue, the predominant scientific opinion sees the conversion of absorbed radiation into Joule heat as the dominant effect with possible biological consequences. So there's physical proof that our minds are getting disrupted because when we look at cell phones, because the Joule heat produced hurts our brain. There's also another effect, traffic safety. According to Charles and Barry Bless in their article, Mobile Phones and Driving, mobile phones use was associated with quadrupled risk of crashes. This article also states that as cell phones get more and more popular, more people will think they are invincible with cell phones, which will lead to more car accidents. As I'm driving around the road, I see people on their phones and looking up and constantly they think they're invincible with their phones, and that will lead to more crashes. There's a lack of proper education of cell phones. In the world today, we are fully engaged in our cell phones at all times. The problem is that our educators themselves are addicted to their phones. How can they educate us on something when they experience the same problems? It is the drug that we are unaware of. As you can see, the problem stems from lack of knowledge and care of cell phones' effect on us. So the solution is simple. Educate parents on the importance of reduced screen time so they can instill this in children. As I listen around the high school, I hear one common theme around all high school students. People are tired all the time. I am guilty as everyone, but I feel like the majority of us are on their phones scrolling through social media till late at night instead of getting much needed rest. Paraphrasing from Rosen, a study was done to analyze sleep habits around phones. The majority of people were on their phone right up until bedtime. 3/4 of the people had their phones on either close to them or in their hand while they slept. And half checked their phone in the middle of the night for social media purposes. If parents were educated on the lack of sleep we were getting because of our phones, then they could set rules to take away phones before bedtime and limit daily use on the apps. If the whole population got more sleep and spent less time on our phones, we would be less anxious, be able to retain information and understand information better, and we would be in an overall better mood. The biggest example where I've seen a limited screen time work is on myself. About a year ago, my mom made me hand in my phone at 9:30 each night. At first I was really mad, but as I grew up, I softened up to it. And to help me fall asleep, I read. While this only lasted for about 3 weeks, I felt rested, paid more attention in school, and was in an overall better mood. It all started with my mom becoming educated about the effects of cell phones and forcing me not to be on my phone. Another problem we have is with parents not being educated is how we're not being treated well, how parents don't know the effects they're doing. In David Hasselhoff's article, Cell Phone Use and Behavioral Problems in Young Children, he presents telling information on the mother's role before pregnancy. Exposure to cell phones prenatally and to a lesser degree postnatally was associated with more behavioral difficulties. I did not know this, and I don't think a majority of you guys know that, but if we're on our phones, if mothers are on their phones before they have a child, then the children will have behavioral problems when they're older. You now all know of a major problem in the world today: too much dependence on cell phones. Our cell phones dominate our lives, and we are educated enough to try to break this addiction. Parents need to become educated about its effects and educate our children. Now, I know getting rid of cell phones is impossible. We need them to communicate with each other. However, I challenge you to not let it control your life. Live in the moment with each other. Go to bed reading a book instead of watching YouTube. Instead of videotaping everything, experience it firsthand. Cell phones were an excellent invention, and there are some real benefits to them, but we cannot let it control our lives. Thank you for listening to my speech.